So I was really blown away by this book, The Girl Who Drew Butterflies, and it's How Merian's Art Changed Science. It's by Joyce Sidman, who's actually a poet. And this book is on a lot of people's Newbery list. Definitely, I would think, Silbert list for best nonfiction. It is just really a stunning, amazing book, as is Maria as well. And so Maria was born to a stepfather who was a printer, and so was really expert in etching, and etching requires art. And her mother remarried when her, I know maybe the first one is her father, but when the etching person died, I think that's actually her biological father. When he died, she remarried, and he was a still life painter. And so even though this is 17th century Germany, where women have, women are really just meant to be mothers and wives, and nothing else, can't own property, and can't have careers, can't really even do art. She learned the craft from just being around her family's business, both of them. But she had this sort of curiosity about the natural world. And you can really call her the mother of ecology, or really sort of the first, the female Charles Darwin. In fact, someone that Charles Darwin learned from and used her beautiful watercolor art as part of his own studies. And so anyway, so she was fascinated with kind of where butterflies, which they called summer birds at the time, and moths and even amphibians, where they came from. And she took it upon herself to really pay close attention and to watch it, even to raise it, because at the time the common belief was that these types of creatures were kind of spontaneously sprang out of whatever, rotting meat or whatever, and it was actually kind of dangerous to be studying this type of science, because there were a lot of witchcraft burnings at the time, and even near where she lived. And so her story is not just was she a very talented artist who painted and drew and etched wildlife, but just kind of how she did it as well. As you can see here, she kind of would place insects and even the life cycle into the painting. So she kind of lured people into science through her beautiful paintings. Let me see if I can find one for you. But I would say butterflies were her first love. And so anyway, what is so great about this book is that it's a combination of biography and science, and kind of natural history of what was going on at the time. And it's just, I think also just the way, here's one. Just the way this book, not only is it beautifully written and it really draws you in, and it's easy to read, it's a fast read, but it also, you can tell, the publisher, or even Joyce Sidman, selected so carefully the images. So it's not just Maria's artwork, but when her artwork wasn't available, they found other artists of the time to show what would be very similar. It also showed the work of her father, who was the very famous etching printer, and her stepfather. It shows photographs of the plants and animals that she worked with. And then what I really love about it too is that it kind of, there's sort of 6 stages of a life cycle of a butterfly, and Joyce Sidman presented this book in 6 chapters that kind of shows Maria's own life cycle, or her own evolution. And it's sort of fascinating too that, especially during this time when women don't have rights, and it's not really even safe to travel alone, kind of the the bravery and the adventures and the life that she sought. So she got married and she had 2 kids, but it feels like it was a pretty unhappy marriage. And then she ended up going to kind of like a monastery. And then when that collapsed, she ended up moving the family to Amsterdam, which was kind of the center of art and literature at the time, and had a lot more freedoms for women. And then she was fascinated about wanting to travel to where a lot of these exotic butterflies and animal life were kind of coming in to Amsterdam from explorers. And then she did end up going to South Africa. To Guyana. In, what is that? Is that Northern Africa? Or no, is that Northern South America? Let me, I'll look it up and I'll put it in the notes below. And that was sort of, she lived a pretty long life, and so that was the sort of, I guess, the last phase of her life. She contracted malaria. She ended up making the most beautiful book based on what she saw while abroad. And while it didn't do well financially, I think it barely broke even. It was what, like, she's sort of like that artist who becomes famous and the works are more and more valuable, like, long after she died. So it was kind of like that type of, unfortunately, that type of situation for her. But I think that it was like her finest work, sort of everything that she had worked on all her life to show people. And it was interesting because at the time, science was just starting to catch up with what she studied. And so anyway, this is a really beautiful book. The publisher says it's for ages 10 and up. I actually think 8 and up, because it is very easy to read. And I just think it's spectacular. So I hope it wins a Newbery and a ton of awards. And I just hope girls, especially girls interested in STEM, read this, because she's just sort of a fascinating person and a really great inspiration of women in STEM. All right, thank you so much for watching.